5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off! Are you ready to launch?
The author switch.
Hello and welcome to the Author Switch, the podcast that is dedicated to helping new and aspiring authors turn on the author switch to success in their minds. This is episode number 17, and if you missed any episodes, especially episodes 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and 15, which aired in October, December, January, February, March, April, and May, then go to authorswitch.com to find them. I am your host, Carma Spence, author of 5 books, including the award-winning and #1 best-selling book, Public Speaking Superpowers, and the second edition of Home Sweet Homepage, which made it to #1 in 3. Yes, 3 bestseller categories. Yay! I was so excited when that happened. Now, if you are new to Author Switch, you may be wondering why I happen to pick out those particular episodes, that long list, right? Well, the reason is because, and this is why I'm going to tell you. The reason is they are the first 7 episodes of an 8-part series. And today, I'm going to be sharing with you part 8. Yes, an 8-part series all about the Authorneer's journey. And this Authorneer's journey takes you from the idea of a book all the way to the book being in your hand and beyond. And I assure you that each episode can stand on its own. However, it's better to get them all because it gives you a holistic view of the writing, publishing, and marketing a book process. Now on to the big finale, launching. So, oh my gosh, this is probably one of the most convoluted topics, right? Because there are so many choices. You could launch your book in so many ways. You could have a single moment launch where you hold literally a 1-day launch, bam, it's launched, it's done. You could hold a rolling launch where you are continuously rolling it for 1 day, 3 days, 7 days, a month, a year. You could be continuously relaunching your book over and over again for however long you want. You could launch it in different ways to different audiences at different times. You could do different types of launches. You can do virtual launches. You can do live launches. I'm going to go over some of the launches that I've actually done so I can tell you about the experience. But believe me, those are not all your options. And I'm going to give you some ideas, other ideas that I'm planning on implementing but haven't implemented. And again, these are not all your options because when it comes to marketing, you're only limited by your creativity. So there's the traditional book launch, the one that lots of people do, and that is your live book launch where you hold a party at a venue. And this venue can be someone's house, yours or someone else's, or a bookstore, or some other venue. I've been to book launches that have been held at someone's house. One author held it at her house because she had a swimming pool and it was a nice house in a nice neighborhood, and that worked. An author friend of mine held one at a bookstore that was in alignment with the type of book that she was launching. I actually held a book launch at and it wasn't even related to my book. It was a gym, but the owner of the gym was a friend of mine, and she had the space. She just moved the exercise equipment aside, and it gave me the space, and it worked. So you find the venue that works for you, and then you get the people in it. I've also held virtual launches. For the first edition of Home Sweet Homepage, I held a virtual housewarming party. I'm still thinking of holding one for the second edition. I was hoping to do one for this time, but I just ran out of time and energy. I may still do it, but I haven't done it yet. And basically what I did is I took the concept of a regular housewarming party, where you have hors d'oeuvres that you serve and you welcome people, and I just took that idea and made it virtual. And lots of people came and they had a great time. I had virtual hors d'oeuvres, and I had virtual rooms, and I had virtual party favors, and I sold about, I think, 45 copies just during the party alone, which was a really good. It really was a good sale. I had really good experience with that. I also one time held a live book launch at my Toastmasters party for Public Speaking Superpowers. That made sense. Book about public speaking, Toastmasters, a public speaking group. The two went together. They hosted the party for me. It was awesome. And we did it in superhero themes. People came in their superhero t-shirts. It was a lot of fun. That's another thing you want to do. If you're going to hold a book launch event, you want to have a theme around it and make it really fun, like a party, because that will get people to engage in it more. The book isn't enough. Yes, it's cool. Yes, it's a book. And yes, you love your book, but it's not enough for everyone else. So you want to make it like a party. So come up with a theme that's related to your book in some way, and that gets people engaged. Another way that you can launch your book is through book tours. In fact, I have a virtual book tour starting in about a week, I think. It's happening at the end of June and into July. And basically my book's going to be either reviewed, or I'm having a guest post, or someone will be talking about my book on various blogs for about 3 weeks. And I've done blog tours like this before, where I show up on blogs or podcasts and things like that. I will drop a link in the show notes of the various blog tours I've done so that you can kind of see what a blog tour might look like. You can actually hire people to do launches for you. I actually tried that this year. That's how Public Speaking Superpowers made it to #1. I had initially hired her to bring Home Sweet Homepage to #1, but since without really trying, Home Sweet Homepage made it to #1 with my efforts. I said, well, why don't you do it with Public Speaking Superpowers? And she brought it to #1. I don't know what she did. I just hired her. She did it. I think what she does is she promotes it. You bring it down to 99 cents, and then she promotes it and people buy it. And as long as it comes up to enough sales, it makes it to #1. So that's another way to launch your book. But basically, the idea of a launch is to get enough people buying your book that you sell enough copies to bring it up in the rankings on Amazon. That's your first tier book launch. Now, there are other tiers that are way harder to achieve, and so most people don't go for them. And that's something like doing a USA Today bestseller or a New York Times bestseller. I think with a USA Today bestseller, you have to sell like 6,000 copies within the span of 1 week, and it can't be from one location. You literally have to sell 6,000 copies, and it has to be some percentage from Amazon, some percentage from Barnes & Noble, some percentage from over here, some percentage from over there. It is a much more challenging metric to go after, and you have to be very strategic about it. But you know what? Being able to say that you're a bestseller on Amazon is usually good enough, and it feels good. it just feels good to go for it. Other ideas that I have in my hopper that I plan to do. And this was an idea that I got from, I've forgotten his name. I will get his name and I will put it in the show notes because he's worth talking to. If you have some money, he helps with book publicity. He gave me the idea of doing a year-long sort of promotional thing where you have 52 tips, because there's 52 weeks in a year. And what you do is you do a little video tip, you post that tip on your blog, and there's a opt-in. Same opt-in. You have one opt-in, all the tips point to that one opt-in, and then you have a press release that points to each blog post. So every week you're releasing a press release that says, hey, I've released this new tip. And then what that does is it grows your list, and anyone who joins your list, you say, hey, I've got this book. So it grows your list and it promotes your book. So that's another way to kind of launch your book and get the word out about your book, and it grows your list. Another way to promote your book that is really, really powerful is to take that blog tour and just focus on podcasts. If you've got the time, try to be a guest on podcasts. There are lots of podcasts out there. A lot of them are looking for guests. I will post some links in the show notes of how you can find podcasts. And I did talk to a guest in an episode a couple of episodes ago who kind of talks about how to be a guest on podcasts. That's a very, very powerful way to launch your book. I highly recommend it. And those are the ideas that I think are the most powerful right now. So I'm going to break right now for a commercial. When we come back, I'm going to talk about some of the other things that you need to do once you have published your book. Attention authors, speakers, and coaches. Does your website attract nothing but crickets and tire kickers? Then you might be committing one of the 5 deadly mistakes of homepage design. Home Sweet Homepage, How to Fix the 5 Deadly Mistakes that Authors, Speakers, and Coaches Make with their website's homepage will help you clear the crickets, repel the tire kickers, and start attracting the right kind of traffic that will convert to readers, clients, and speaking opportunities. Available wherever books are sold in paperback and ebook formats. bookmarketingclub.com/homepage book. Hello and welcome back to the Author Switch, the podcast dedicated to helping new and aspiring authors turn on the author switch to success in their minds. I'm your host, Carma Spence, author of the best-selling books, Public Speaking Superpowers, and Home Sweet Homepage. Before the break, I was talking all about these different ways that you can launch your book. But you know what? Promoting your book doesn't always stop with the launch, right? There's the launch that gets you going, but sooner or later, the sales are going to drop off. And that doesn't help you. You need to keep sales going, or Amazon eventually drops you so low that no one even sees your book. So how do you keep your book continuously selling at least 1 to 3 copies a month, which I have actually successfully done, even with books I haven't promoted, which is crazy, but it's done. There are different ways to do this. Now, the book I've had the most success with is Bonkers for Bun Cakes. And I have learned that the reason why that one is as successful as it is because it just has a very popular keyword. Bun cakes are popular. I lucked out. My other books, not so popular with the keywords. For example, public speaking, that's actually a very popular keyword, but there's so much competition that the keyword itself isn't enough. I have to do more promotion with it. So what do you do to keep your book selling? Well, it's continuous marketing, because if you publish it, they will come. Does not happen. You need to work this. Work it, baby, work it. So what do you do? One option, and this is This is not an option for everyone because not everyone likes to do that. But it's a very powerful option. And if you can work it, do it. And that is release an audio version of your book. And I tell you it's not an easy option because I've been working on the script for the audio version of Public Speaking Superpowers since 2019. It is now 2021. I'm still working on it. I've had to stop working on it, and then I work on it, and then I stop. And part of the problem with that book is that because of the way the book was written, it's not easy to translate it to audio only because I refer to a lot of things that don't communicate well if you can't see it. So if your book can be just read and understood without seeing the print, you're way ahead of me already. So anyway, that's why that one's taking me so long. It's not that audiobooks are hard, because they really aren't. You get your script, you read your script. If you can be the voice of your book, that is better because it brands you as the author better. Of course, you need to make sure that you have a good mic. I will drop in the show notes some people that you can talk to get, or some articles. I will point you in the right direction for that. I've been working with an audio technician. He's had some changes in his life recently, so I'm not sure if he's still doing that. I hope he still is because he's awesome. I'll have to check in with him before I drop his name in there, but if I can refer him, I will. And you want to make sure you have a good mic, that you're in a location that's relatively soundproof or not soundproof, but sound resistant, because you want to have as clear a sound as possible when you're doing the audiobook, because the companies that sell your audiobook have really high standards for the audio quality. And that's why you're going to want to hire an audio editor who can make sure that your audio files meet standards. Now, yes, you can do this yourself. And if you're techie and can do that, more power to you. I don't want to do that. I'm hiring someone. So that's one way. Because once you get the audiobook, then you can do a whole book launch around the audiobook, which raises the bar and the visibility of your physical books. You can also do periodic promotions of your ebook, because anyone who buys your ebook is a little more likely to buy your physical book. So there's that. You can also, another really good way is to do public relations. And that there are different ways to do that. But one good way is to take a look at those lists of observations for the year and find out which ones do you think you could tie into the topic of your book. And then create a list of your local media and pitch your local media about, depending on the type of media, about 2 to 3 weeks ahead of that observation with an idea. So for example, I pitched media about graduation a few weeks ago because June, end of May, beginning of June is sort of the graduation time. Now, none of it panned out, but that's okay. I honestly, after watching the news the past few weeks, they didn't really do much graduation stories. So that's probably why that pitch didn't work. But it could have. Another thing is because I was new in town and I came from out of state, my pitch about me being new in town and launching a book, that did get me something. That did get me a radio interview because they loved the idea that someone came to Minnesota and loved it here. So find your angles that will get your local media to love you, because what you want to do is get known in your local area, then grow to your regional area, then grow from there, because each step will get you a stronger footing in the stronger media. So that's another way to continually market your book. Of course, there's email marketing. You always want to have an email list and just always be marketing your book to your email list. Now, don't be irritating about it. You can just simply have, if you send out a weekly newsletter, just have a link at the bottom that says, "Have you bought my book yet? Buy it now." Switch out the picture every once in a while so they don't automatically ignore it. And every once in a while have a sale. Another thing you could do is create offers that include your book. So for example, here's an idea. I've got this book, Public Speaking Superpowers, right? I could create an offer where I teach one of the concepts in this book. Like I just happened to open to chapter 6, which is the power of audience engagement. I could create a weekend workshop that's all about audience engagement. And if you buy that course or that workshop by a certain date, you get an autographed copy of my book automatically. It promotes your book. You sell a few more copies of your book. Bam. These are all different ways you can do it. You can do giveaways. And the funny thing is, yes, there's a part of you that goes like, oh, but I'm not making any money. That's not always the point. That's not always the point. Yes, you want to make money, but honestly, your book isn't your moneymaker. Your book is the lost leader. Yes, you make some money. I mean, what? I think I make $2-3 on any copy of a book I sell. At most, I make $5. Most. But honestly, the books are what gets you visible so that people buy other things from you. And that's what you always need to be thinking about. So use your book as a tool to get the word out about you. And that's what I've got for you. So that's it for the Authorneer's journey. Always be marketing your book. And as with so many things in business, it's not the end of the journey. In fact, it's more like washing your hair. Lather, rinse, repeat, and work on your next book. Now, coming up in 2 weeks, I will be chatting with Tina Koenig about book publicity. I hope I'll see you there and that you'll tune in. Until then, this is your host, Carma Spence, signing off.
The Author Switch at authorswitch.com.